Well, hello, guys. It's a special event. We are doing an interview tonight. So it's just me, no Clay for this one. Although he would have loved this one, and he's probably going to be a little bit mad at me that he didn't get in on this one because he would love it. So I am apologizing right now, Clay. Sorry. But we have Daniel Flint today, and we're going to have a great conversation right after this. Daniel, hi. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on. I really do. Thank you.
You know what? I didn't ask you beforehand. Do you prefer Daniel?
Daniel's fine.
You got it. I love it. It's a great name. I actually love your middle name too. Your middle name is Tobias, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's a family name. So from it's I'm born in upstate New York, so from good old farm country. So
I love it. That's awesome. So let me tell everybody a little bit about you, what I know, and then you're going to fill in any blanks that I might have here. So you're a professional historian of American history, Den-Star educator with Discovery Education, 2022 Westside High School Teacher of the Year, and 2022 Gilder Lehrman, correct me if I said that wrong,
yep,
U.S. History U.S. History Teacher of the Year for the state of Florida. That is very, very cool. Congratulations on that. That's awesome. And you are in the running for Teacher of the Year this year as well.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about that first.
Yeah, it's Reader's Digest, America's Favorite Teacher. So somebody nominated me, and then I got the email from them, and I just put it out. And I've been leading my group for the last 4 or 5 weeks now. It asks us 3 or 4 different questions, and then you put your link out there, and then people vote, and based on the voting, that's how you're selected. So I must be making a lot of people happy because I'm number one for my group right now, which is really as an educator, you don't realize how many people you impact until people start really coming out and supporting you. And I've had so many people come out supporting me and voting for me. I appreciate your vote today as well.
You're welcome.
It means the world, because none of us do this job for the money. I mean, I knew when I going into education that I wasn't going to be a wealthy individual. My father was a very successful real estate and tax attorney in upstate New York, and just coming from that, I knew that I'd make enough money to be comfortable, and I'd always get my summers off. So it's my father-in-law makes a joke. He calls me a seasonal employee because I work 10 months out of the year. But and I love it. I wouldn't, I don't consider what I do work. And I consider it civic obligation. So.
I love that. And you're so right. The impact that teachers particularly have on kids, that's a lifelong thing, and good and bad. If you have a bad experience with a teacher, that stays with you. But when you have those good experiences, and thankfully I think there's so many more of those than there are the bad experiences. I was a bad kid. I was a bad student. So I've got a great mix of both. So anything bad was definitely well-deserved on my end. And I take full blame. But, I was so blessed to have some really great teachers that saw past the veneer, which I think a lot of kids put up. And, because you're trying to, especially if you're talking like high school, you're trying to present some kind of image. And I was very fortunate that I had some that saw right through and said, no, you're not rich in your potential, and we're going to make sure that you do. So I'm eternally grateful for that. And I love that you're making an impact like that on students. I think it's just such a gift, really. So thank you for what you do. I love that.
I appreciate kids always see it like it is. I've been training teachers for the last 10 years, and every new teacher I talk to, I tell them there's going to be one or two things you're going to decide after your first year teaching. Either A, you're going to quit and find a new profession because this place isn't for you, or you're going to realize how rewarding it is and you're going to continue. And I graduated in 1997, and I tell new teachers this all the time, the days of kids respecting you because you're the adult, you're, whatever, are gone. You have to earn their respect from day one, and you have to show them why you matter. So in my own classroom, I've got a giant wall of me. It shows everything that I've done, all the accomplishments that I've done, everything that I have. The kids call that flexing. I like to let them know exactly where I'm coming from. So if they want to question, my authority, why should you be here? Well, it's all right there. You usually tell them I got more degrees than a thermometer. They always like to sit there and joke about that, but you have to show them why you matter. And if you do that, then kids want discipline. They crave it. They really, really do. And, anyone says, oh, I want to teach these kids today, you have to spend time with them. And I teach in an inner city, urban school where, so it's a Title One, so it's like 85 to 90% of those kids are on free and reduced lunch. It's low socioeconomic. The majority of the population is African American. So stepping in there, now I don't like using the word minority, but and you have to sit there, and there's a whole other cultural thing that goes along with that too. And I've been doing this 20 years now, predominantly to the inner city, and I love those kids to death. I do. Oh my God, they will tell you how it is, like right off the bat. There's no filter. There's not. They will tell you exactly how they're feeling. If you look bad, they'll tell you, oh, that's fine. Go ahead, because at least the conversation gets started. And sometimes that's the best way to have the intro. If you can't have a little bit of self-deprecating humor, JFK did it really well. With the media when he would sit there and get out, talking to women and things like that. And you gotta have that. You have to be able to make fun of yourself. You have to be able to sit there and not be stiff. And I always ask people all the time, like, do you remember the teachers that you didn't like in high school? And did you learn something in that class? Is there something that you took away from the teachers that you did not like that that you learned? I always tell people that kids don't learn from people they don't like. So as long as you create a system or an environment where kids can come in and feel relaxed, and you win on all kinds of levels. You really do.
That's so true. And they absolutely 100% can smell authenticity in the air. They know when you're being genuine and when you're really trying to connect with them on their level and you're not patronizing them. They know. And I think, it's so easy to underestimate that or just to maybe ignore it, and I'm sure in every profession, there are people that just go in to punch the time clock and do their time and get out. And, when you get to meet people who are passionate about what they do and are in it all for the right reasons. And again, any profession, but we're talking about you tonight, and it's so important, and they see it. They know that you're not just physically present, you're emotionally present for them. And I think that's, man, that's a game changer. And you said it early on, you have no idea the impact that you'll make on these kids, on anybody really. But, I suspect you're going to be hearing from these kids years down the road. They'll be coming back to you and say, you know what? You had a really positive impact on me. And that's worth its weight in gold.
Come back, and especially the ones that join the military, they come back in their, their BDUs or their fatigues and whatever, and they're so proud of, what they accomplished. And, they know, I love the Marine Corps, and I love bringing the military in. I'm one of the few instructors that will sit there. I've had the Marine Corps already in, the Army recruiters have already been in, Navy and the Air Force become, and I give them the 30 minutes, they'll spend the day in there talking to kids, because at the end of the day, not everyone's going to college, and that's okay to say. I think we're in a society where it's like, oh my God, you have to go to college, and why? Right. That's the other question. It's like, what is a college that you're looking to do? I was like, well, I want to be a welder. I was like, okay, well, Tulsa Welding is right down the street. Hey, the military, you will sit there and pay for your college and do all this kind of stuff. And it's just, I think that these avenues need to kind of be opened up for these kids to see. And once they see that they're there, they'll want to pursue them. And there's nothing wrong with that,
Right. So true. So now take me back a little. Let's go backwards a little bit. Tell me about where did this passion for educating, for U.S. history, where did all this passion come from? Is there somebody in particular that inspired you, or is this just a lifelong thing for you?
Actually, the history teacher I had in high school, Mark Pearson, inspired me. I wanted to be just like him, and he was always active. He did a lot. We did cross country. We did the Envirothon. He was always there all the time. He was always there like 45 minutes early, because my father would drop me off at school, and then Mr. Pearson was always there. Had any questions that I always wanted to have answered. And he never minded talking. It never seemed like I was bothering him. I know I was. I know 100% I was. But he never showed that, even if he was. But he had the conversation with me, and he got me excited about history. And we started doing more projects and really focusing on the things. And I go back probably every couple of years, and he's still teaching in the same classroom.
Wow.
And it's I made a challenge for him about a year ago, and I went back to him and I gave that to him. It's like, this is really, really important. I want you to have, and he keeps it up in his classroom now. And it's just being able to go back there and talk to him, and just, he's like, wow, I was like, I can't believe you've been teaching for 20 years. It's like, yeah, I can't believe you're still in the classroom. You're retired by now. But, it's just, there was a concept in the early national period, right after the country was founded, the idea of education was called Republican motherhood, and it has nothing to do with political ideology. It was the idea that the mothers of the country at the time were going to teach the ideas and the fundamentals and, about what democracy is, what the Constitution is, why we fought the revolution, and that was going to be instilled in the generations. This is prior to 1840 and Horace Mann making education compulsory in the country. This was the job and like moral and civic responsibility of mothers raising children, whether on the frontier, whether in the cities or whatever, and it was just, and I kind of feel that that's, that civic responsibility on myself to make sure I feel better when these kids leave my classroom. At least they'll know. I got a lot of kids right now that are really nervous about voting in the next election. They ask me all the time, "Who are you going to vote for?" I was like, "Legally, I cannot tell you that. But what I can do is I can show you where you can get the information for, or we can talk about both sides of the aisle." There are a lot of teachers that don't want to do that. They don't want to. They only want to talk about the one side, and they don't want to sit there and acknowledge the other. And it's like, well, you can't have a one-sided conversation, because the minute you do that, you're just defeating the purpose. You're sending a person out into the world that's not going to be well educated enough to make the decision on their own. I don't even preach that to my own children. My daughter's 18 now. It's like, vote for whoever you want. My rule is, as long as you've read and they meet with your ideology, I don't care who you vote for. Just vote. It doesn't matter. You're not going to upset me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I want you to go out and vote your conscience. And that's what I tell all my students to do in the classroom. And there's no political paraphernalia in my room. There's none of that. It's just flag inspired. Everything is historically relevant, from the amendments to all the presidents that have come. And everything. And I even, one poster that my students were like, all the presidential wives. Because you ever want to say, "Oh my God, what did George Washington's wife, what's her portrait like?" Or, Grover Cleveland, what does his wife look like? And the girls are always really interested to see, see what they're wearing. But, if they go up there and look and they ask questions, hey, it's always learning something new, that people want to ask. And that's what it's all about,
That's so refreshing to hear. We're in such an uncomfortable climate where it seems like every single thing is political, and it's hard not to imagine. I would almost guarantee that the kids of all ages are inundated with that as well, and they probably, you would certainly know better than me. They just want to learn. Like, I think they're like a lot of people, like, just give me facts. Like, just don't tell me what, how to think, or, what to think. Just give me the facts and let me decide things for myself based on those facts and that understanding. And, I think that's so valuable to be teaching kids. Teach them how to think, not what to think. And you're setting them up for making like great life decisions, because they're being critical thinkers, and they're thinking about, and thanks to people like you who are just teaching them history, like teaching them this is what happened, this is who did this, and that's it. Now you can draw your own conclusions about it, right? I mean, they get that opportunity to draw your own conclusions, but all based on fact and truth. And I think, we're so ruled right now by opinion and feelings and all of those things. So it's so great to hear. I love facts. So, you could throw facts at me all day and I'll just sit there with like my hand on my chin, just listening to it all. I love that. Far cry.
They're scared of being canceled. And my theory is this: I teach what the state of Florida says. I cover the standard, so for example, SS 912-827 is review the Native American experience. That's from start to finish, what they went through, how it was, their experience is good and bad, and going through all of that. Or review cause, course, and consequences of the United States Civil War, going from sectionalism to course of the war to Reconstruction to all of those different things, and just laying all the facts out. And that, and I get questions all the time. Oh, how's everything since everything's changed in Florida? It's like, guys, nothing's changed for me. Since 2011, when the state adopted the benchmarks that I teach, my standards have not changed. America, for me, in a standard U.S. history class, my standards have not changed. And there is the new African American history class that the state offers that I tell people I don't get into that. I don't get into all of that. It's like I can only speak to the content that I directly teach. So, and that's what I tell people all the time. The other question is like, you grew up in New York. How are you conservative? And it's just like, oh, it's like I grew up in farm country. It's just, and these were people that I grew up around. Chatham is I'd say more purple area now, but it's just really the upstate New York is a very conservative area. I grew up hunting and fishing, and I grew up around people that were just good, solid human beings to talk to, and they express their opinions. Both Republican and Democrats. It didn't really matter. I always got both sides of the aisle. And that was like the best part. No one ever tried spinning me one way, one direction or the other. And I was always welcome to hear people's views. I think one of the teachers at school, he's an avid Democrat. He and I have conversations all the time, and we enjoy each other. It's proof that a conservative and a Democrat can sit there and have a conversation and get along. You don't have to sit here and hate each other. And I think that's
Right.
where, as a nation, that we are. Like they always say, we're waiting for the adults to come back in the room. Yeah, please let me know when they do show up, because being able to have that compromise and that conversation is a huge part. When I teach U.S. history and we're going through all the different topics, they look at, oh my God, they were actually able to sit down and talk about this.
Right.
So I mean, that's a huge part of being able to sit down and have the conversation. So.
Well, again, I thank you and teachers like you who are putting in that time, because you're really the product of that you're creating or being a part of creating is future adults who are going to be able to have those conversations without them being a battle, without people hating each other. They'll have the skills to have those conversations, and that's something that obviously is so lost right now in society, and I think generally, and I mean this very generally. We're being a terrible example for our youth, collectively as a nation. I mean, they're watching our behavior and modeling it. And, I mean, we see it. We don't have to go into all of that, but you, the viewers, everybody, you know what I'm talking about. It's just constant, right? It's just constant conflict and tension. And we need to be raising and teaching kids how to be adults who can engage intelligently
Have the
and
respectful
compassionately.
conversation. Yeah, absolutely. And being able to listen to someone else's view. You might not like it, but at least entertain, listen to them, and that, hey, they might say something that you agree with,
Right.
and that's the hardest part. I tell students all the time, like, we're not discussing politics. And if something active happens, like the kids will ask me about, like, oh, why is former President Trump on trial? And I was like, well, the only way we discuss any current facts is that you can present me with stone cold facts about why you're asking the question. I don't want to hear conjecture. I don't want to hear opinions. It's like, if you want to know, then present. And my rule is simple: both sides of the aisle. I want conservative and I want Democrat views. And I was like, then we'll have a conversation. Other than that, we're not discussing it, and we move on. And the idea is that unless you can relate it back to what we're discussing, we move on and move past that. And so a lot of kids really respect that, and they like the fact that they're not getting bashed in the head with just political stuff all the time, and
Right.
they actually get fed up with it. Believe it or not, they just want to know why. They want to know why this is happening. And I tell them all the time, it's like, U.S. history is one of the best stories that you're ever going to find. From the way it starts to how we started out as a nation. We're a nation that hates taxes. And we talk about a lot of stuff that we do in U.S. history. We cover a lot of stuff that deals with taxation, and regulations, that kind of stuff. And that, going back to the revolution, the reason why we rebelled is because we were being unfairly, taxed by the British, and then moving forward, and it just, once these kids start seeing the patterns, they start understanding why things are happening the way they are, and they want to become more active. And it's really, I like watching the light bulb go off. For example, we just kind of wrapped up Vietnam, and I had a student ask me, if President Johnson hadn't gotten caught lying, do you think Vietnam would have been as bad as it was? And I was like, that's a really good question. I really don't know. And it's just like, but there were so many groups out there protesting against LBJ for lying about, how Vietnam got started. And I also bring in my Vietnam veterans. A lot of them are, former Vietnam combat Marines, and they'll talk to my students. And, going back, one of the big things I do is I being the 50th anniversary of Vietnam, I welcome them back in. I always welcome them home, because these guys are starting to wear their hats out in public again. They're proud veterans that served in Vietnam, and I want to make sure they understand, that role that those guys had and how badly they were treated when they came home. And just people just seem to forget, and it's sad, really. And they really only started talking about it until the withdrawal from Afghanistan happened, and then I started seeing the cartoons out there. The Vietnam Marine putting his hand on the Afghanistan soldier's shoulders, like, now you know how I feel, and kind of stuff like that. I feel your pain.
Yes, those tear your heart out. Yeah,
it does. From when Saigon fell to where the aircraft, where the C-130s were taken off at Bagram Gate, that kind of stuff. And it just it's hard, because these kids see this and they want context for what is going on. And that's the part that hits a lot of us as educators all the time.
Yeah,
Just absolutely. Explain that in a kind of neutral environment.
And teaching U.S. history, teaching history in general is so it's critical. I mean, it is so imperative that we understand and know history. And I'll be perfectly honest. I joked around and what a bad student I was, and back in the day, and I'm mad at my young self for being so reckless with an opportunity to just have that knowledge base. I'm ready to ask you, can you do some online classes for people and give
Well,
us like
funny,
a
Well, funny you mentioned that. I've actually partnered with a company called Quick Learn, and using AI, I've actually created an avatar of myself, and I've programmed 26. I've written 26 different courses right now, 13 which are active. It's quicklearn.ai. I'm not pitching anything. I just because we're actively piloting the program in my school right now. So my avatar is teaching content in U.S. history, which you can ask in real. You can ask my avatar real questions in real time, and based on the content I have provided and the regulations that the state of Florida has for education, that you can sit there and have that real conversation with an AI generated instructor and get the content without all the extra stuff that goes with it. So you can have that one-on-one classroom. And when they created my classroom, what I had them do is they put me in President Lincoln's executive office. So the same office he was issuing orders out of during the Civil War. That's the classroom that I chose to have. And as my
wow.
avatar is going through the content, which is really it's probably one of the more impressive things I've done in like the last 5 to 6 years of education. Because now students have access to be able to ask the avatar questions, and if they have it, and if it's allowed to be able to, if it falls within the parameter of the content of the course, it will answer the question. And if it goes outside the content, how do I, where can I go to, get marijuana or something like that? It won't answer the question. It'll sit there and say,
Funny.
based on the guidelines, I can't answer that. But it has become a tool for me to use for students to help not only review for their course exams, but as another way to kind of pass along that, ideology. I worry about when I retire, the next person that's coming in after me will have the same passion and enthusiasm as I do. And, they may or they may not, it's really hard to tell, it's just the way
Mhm.
education is going, the way things are seeing. That's why I stay in it as long as I have.
Right. Yeah, that's just incredible. The whole AI thing is just incredible. I'm so glad I accidentally asked you that.
Well, people are scared of it because they don't really understand how it can be used in education. And I was on it last year when David Bradford at Utah called me up. He saw my LinkedIn profile. He's like, "Hey, yeah, I wanted to ask you some questions about creating a U.S. history class." And I was like, "Oh yeah." So and now from June last year to now, those courses have been offered online. So they've got courses, from NFL great Steve Young, Kerry Joe Smith, the U.S. #1 pickleball player, and it's just a
Mhm.
wide variety of different, people that you can take a course and ask questions and, kind of get a basic backdrop to, which is really amazing.
Wow.
My students have access to a course. My courses as well. They also have access to a course taught by Abraham Lincoln about the Gettysburg Address. And there's a course in there taught by Leonardo da Vinci. You can literally ask Da Vinci real questions in real time. And everyone, like I said, everyone's scared of AI. They don't really understand how it can be used effectively in the classroom. And this is one of the ways that it can be effectively used. And kids aren't sitting there, just, type me a paper up. That's not how this works. The way I've
Mm.
structured it, the way I've set it up, there's a study guide they have to go through to answer questions. But if the idea is like, so can I take an average person and so can I make you a content expert in the Civil War in 25 minutes?
Mhm.
Could I take anybody off the street? Could I do that with one of these courses? That's kind of the premise that I took with it.
Wow. That is so, so cool. I love that. And and it gives you some hope. I mean, we're so used to everything negative about the internet and everything that it negatively brings into our lives, and we do forget that there are some really, really positive things that it can be used for when it's used constructively and properly, and the way that I like to believe that it was intended to help educate and inform people and not be all this other crazy stuff. So that's really, really exciting. I love that stuff. And I would imagine, my high school history teacher, I know that he passed away within the
I'm sorry to
past
hear
couple
that.
of years. And I would love to apologize to him for being such a little jerk that I was. And and I hope that he knows that I'm doing better now. I'm interested.
One of the great things I think I've seen over the years is that I don't believe it's like there's no such thing as a bad kid. There's not. I've never had that mentality. Every student is different. People ask me all the time, how can you teach the same thing over and over? Every
Mm.
class, every
It's a great
day
question,
is,
actually.
is different. Like
Yeah.
I know the 8A class that I had today is going to be completely different on Wednesday. Whether those kids can have, I wrote an article about a week and a half ago. I called it, being an edutainer. I put on 3 90-minute shows a day, 5 days a week. And every show is different. You have to be, it's the dancing clown routine. I tell my students, it's not just about teaching the content, but you have to do it in an entertaining way. You have to keep their attention, because not only are you fighting with the cell phones, you're fighting with, Instagram and everything else. They want to sit there and they want to be entertaining, and you have to be the entertainer, because if you're not, they're not going to listen, and they're not going to capture their attention. And I tell them American history is one of the, the best and most entertaining stories on the planet. If you take time to listen to me, you'll see why. And they want to learn. And that's probably the hardest part, because they can look it up in a hot second. I'm like, yeah, but do you understand? It's a difference. I tell them all the time, it's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing what the right answer is. Wisdom is understanding why it's the right answer. So, and that's what I tell them all the time.
I love it. I love it. That's what you mentioned. So you mentioned one of your endeavors there with the AI and the learning tools and everything. But you actually have had a lot of stuff going on. You are a huge give back kind of guy. So and a lot of this stuff, it all revolves around service to others. And I think that's so noble and cool. So talk about some of the projects that you have going on. I know we talked about that one. Are there some other things going on right now as well?
So we currently right now I'm working with Mighty Hero Homes out of McDonough, Georgia, and their organization. Drew Walson and Derek Lane are Drew's the CEO and Derek's the CFO up there. They're great guys. The idea is to house homeless veterans to go from homeless to homeowner in 2 years. I met Drew about a year ago when I was reaching out to other organizations. I've done things for other groups. I've done work with Grunt Style. A lot of the educational outreach I do, they support. So it's really nice to have the support. When I go in and you're able to display the Grunt Style colors and sit there, and people know that, hey, when you're able to sit those things up, oh wow, here's an organization that we know is pro this and pro that, and they're going to support what you put out there, which is really, really nice. And it's nice to have their support. Tim Jensen is a fabulous human being. I love talking to him. And I love having his support, and the Grunt Style Foundation as well. Tiffany Owner, Forever Warriors, here in Florida is an absolute another gem to, drop the hat. If I need their support, all I got to do is pick up the phone and call, and she is just absolutely amazing. And being able to work and help veterans and help in the veteran community has really become a new project for me. Seeing that the rate of veteran homelessness that we have going on in the country, it's an epidemic, and people kind of don't want to discuss it, and they kind of want to kind of skirt the issue and avoid it. And I was like, why? These guys gave up some PTSD and everything else to go through with that drug dependency. The Grunt Style Foundation they're kicking off their new 4-pillar campaign this year. Ending homeless veterans, and because that's a big part of that. And working with Mighty Hero Homes, it just housing homeless veterans and knowing that they can get help them get jobs, help them get back on their feet, and knowing that they're not some like diseased part of society that we just want to ignore. That these people need help. They serve our country, and they absolutely deserve the respect and gratitude that they deserve. And that's what I try to do. I try to sit there and spend a lot of my time doing that, and that's been a really big push for me in the last year and a half. So, and working with different organizations and being able to pump out articles and things like that for organizations. Just recently I was invited down by the Triple Nickel, the company, to attend their Black Ops project. It's a part of the Veterans History Project, and it's all about African Americans that served in the special forces, throughout military. It was what an eye-opening experience that was, seeing these individuals get up there and just share their history with a group and a population. It's just it was really, really impactful. Just last year and it was one of the things that I had focused on. That one thing you didn't hear enough of, I did a project about African American history, veterans in African American history, from the Revolution all the way through current military operations, really shining a light on different aspects of what they went through. I did that with Brady Pett. I did that with Timothy McCoy, and I did that with Arthur Coley. And these are just individuals. And Grunt Style and Tim Jensen were actually letting me film that in their San Antonio headquarters there, which was really fabulous. It was a great project to do, and I was really honored to be a part of that.
Wow. Well, you aren't kidding, man. You don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. You do quite a bit. That's so impressive and so amazing and so generous and selfless. Very cool. Guys, if this guy isn't getting this teacher of the year thing, I'm coming for all of you. But listen, seriously though, speaking of which, where can they find everyone, find you, find all, if you have a bunch of links, where can they
LinkedIn is the
find
number
you?
one way to get a hold of me. So that link is on the page. It's on my LinkedIn page, like right there at the top. Every day, I gave it to you earlier today. So if you want to share that out there, that's great. I mean,
Perfect.
it would be so. The grand prize is $25,000 and a trip to Hawaii. But I tell people all the time, like, the money's great, the trip would be awesome. The money would go right back into my students and into my classroom. And yeah, who would want a trip? But with everything that comes with that, it would give me another platform to really bring more awareness to supporting veterans in the community. And that's what this past week I had. Last week I was actually able to talk to Colonel Allison Black. The agent of death. Just phenomenal person. And she agreed to come to my school next year to do a project to inspire females to join enlist in the military. Because
That's
that's
awesome.
another underrepresented kind of category. Because a lot of
Yes.
times when the recruiters come in, a lot of them are guys, and women are just like, they want someone that looks like them and speaks like them, and they want to be able to hear from that perspective. And Colonel Black and I had a fabulous conversation. And I was like floored when she agreed to come to my school and talk to my students, which is it's absolutely fabulous. So we're currently working on that for next year, and working with the Black Ops Project, working with
Uh-huh.
their event organizers. They want to bring that to my school, so I'm currently that's in the works for fall 24. So.
Nice. Those are some extremely fortunate students. I don't know if they realize how fortunate they are, but they will at some point for sure. Absolutely amazing. Daniel, I could listen to you for hours, but I won't do that to you. I'll just ask you to come back on another time, the next time you have
Anytime,
have some stuff to share
not a
with us.
problem. I enjoy it. So
Awesome. I can't thank you enough. Just amazing work that you're doing, and proud to have met you and to hear
yes,
about
ma'am.
all the great stuff you're doing. So thank you so much, and God bless. Just amazing.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that was Daniel Flint. All of the info that you need, his links will be in the show's notes. Go check him out. Go vote for him too. The link will be there for that as well. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care.